Hello all YouTubers, I am the Weather Dude, helping you to understand your weather even better. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you all for tuning back into this weather presentation for September 2nd, 2019. As always, please don't forget to subscribe, as well as sharing the video and ringing the bell notifications, never miss one of my videos again. And as always, please consider looking in the description for other videos of mine with superior weather content you won't find anywhere else. And please consider watching the whole video because, yet again, we'll be talking about Hurricane Dorian today. And I was just shocked yesterday when it became 185 miles per hour, Category 5. Like, that was absolutely crazy. Like, I'm surprised there's even still a such thing as the Bahamas after this storm. It was such a devastating event for the Bahamas, and it's still hitting the Bahamas right now. And we're going to talk all about Hurricane Dorian in this video today. And I know a lot of my viewers have, some of my viewers, they said have family down there, and they wanted me to keep them informed about it, so that's why I'm doing a video on it today. So let's get right into it. It has recently dropped to a Category 4, but no less a threat to the southeast and even the southern mid-Atlantic. So here's the latest run that just came out from the GFS model, the 12Z run. And as you can see, it's still in the Bahamas right now, but as we head through the day on Tuesday, watch out along the east coast of Florida here, from West Palm Beach up through Melbourne, Palm Bay, the Space Coast, the Treasure Coast, all the way up to Jacksonville. In Florida, those are the areas that are going to get hit, probably some of the hardest hit areas. But watch this. So this is Tuesday afternoon, and this is Tuesday night. Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night. Look how it makes like a westward jog. So it's just to the east of Melbourne right here, and it's just very powerful. 941 millibars of pressure, a little bit weaker than before. Of course, the higher the number is, the weaker the storm. And then it comes just too dangerously close to the South Carolina and Georgia coastlines and all the way to the North Carolina coastline. I've seen the wind gusts right now, and in places like Florida, I mean, we're talking about wind gusts over 40 miles an hour at times, even over 45 miles an hour already, and the storm is still in the Bahamas. So it's definitely growing in size as it moves along here. And then maybe affecting the mid-Atlantic. Now, where in the mid-Atlantic, we don't know. Maybe Maryland, Delaware, Jersey, especially on the coastlines. But look at this. This is what's kind of going to be worried about this storm. You know how they say the northeastern quadrant is the strongest side of the storm? It's the most intense part of the storm? Yes, they're right when they say that. But look at all the rain and storms. It's all on the western side. So that's pretty interesting. Okay, don't want the sounding. Anyway, so again, it's all western side filled, and then it pulls away. But how close it moves to Florida, the southeast, the mid-Atlantic, that tracking is still a little bit uncertain right now. Alright, so here's the NAM 3KM model. And again, here it's sitting over Bahamas. They said it's going to re-strengthen the 912 millibars. I don't think that's going to happen. But you can see, again, moving all too dangerously close to the Florida coast. Kind of like Matthew about 3 years ago. Except that one, I think, happened in October. But you can see here's all that rain and thunderstorms. And it's only going to continue to get worse. And conditions will be deteriorating for Florida and Georgia. Now this model says not really going to hit Georgia all that hard. But again, for a place like Florida, all you might get is the outer bands, but it's going to be a lot of rain. And in fact, we could even see 2+ inches of rain, even 4+ inches of rain off the Florida coast. But look at this. This is like above a foot, even 2 feet. If the storm tracks west, it can make a jog to the east, to the west. And hurricane force winds are only, when the storm tracks off the Florida coast, hurricane force winds will only be about 16 to 20 miles away from the coast. So any little shift west or east is going to really tell the tale here of who sees what impacts. Again, here's a NAM model, not moving all that much. This is like a whole day later, and it's still sitting over the Bahamas. And it finally picks up the pace here. NAM 12KM looks a little bit more off the coast than the 3KM model, but still, 3KM is more like a high resolution model, but nonetheless, again, you can still have some of those outer bands reaching through the mid-Atlantic. Wouldn't be surprised on that one. The total accumulated precipitation according to the NAM 12KM model, again, you got that area of 10+ inches right here, and about 2 inches plus along the coast of Florida. But any jog west or east in the storm track will really make a difference. Hurricane hunters here, the Air Force 309, Mission 33. They left about Mobile, Alabama about an hour ago. Barely even that. They're flying through the Panhandle of Florida, and they just passed Appalachia Bay, and are heading into the storm. They haven't gotten to the storm yet, and they continue to climb. They did find some strong winds, even in the north part. 13 knots. It was just 8 knots a few minutes ago. So they are finding some stronger winds as they get closer to the storm, but no really pattern in the winds until they actually get into the storm. And so did I ever mention, and actually I never mentioned, the fact that we have 4 other tropical disturbances in the Atlantic? No, I did not mention that. I'm going to mention it right now. There are 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 other tropical disturbances in the Atlantic besides Dorian. And here they are. Well, I only see 3 X's. Well, no, you have to go to the 5-day outlook first. Alright, so again, you can see up here, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and of course, Dorian makes 5. So we're going to start, we'll talk about these in the next video, but again, here's Disturbance 1, 90% chance of development. Disturbance 2, 50%. Disturbance 3 is 50%, and Disturbance 4 just got recognized as 30%. So I'm not going to focus on that. That'll be for another video, but I just wanted you to know that there is 5 total disturbances, 4 if you don't include Dorian in the Atlantic. So some key messages here: prolonged period of catastrophic winds and storm surge for the Grand Bahama Islands around Freeport, and even life-threatening storm surge Florida East Coast, Georgia coast. We can have 4 to 7 feet of storm surge for Florida's Treasure Coast and Space Coast. And water levels are rising right now. Okay, and if I go to, let's start with a place like Melbourne, right? So if you want to find out your tide schedule for Melbourne, and you don't want to drive down to the beach, and I purposely didn't pull this tab up so I can show you guys. But if you just go to Melbourne, Florida, you could type in tides for fishing, literally the number 4, tides for fishing here, and you can see you get some tide graphs here. Like Sebastian Inlet is pretty close. We'll do that one, Sebastian Inlet. And you can scroll down. It'll give you all these kind of graphics here, and you can see water temperatures 85 degrees, blah blah blah, and then eventually you'll get down all the way down until you hit this right here. So this is your tide schedule, and is this for September? Yes, it's September. So again, these are some of the high tides here. We got 3 feet at 10:57, so we just passed high tide. We're getting ready to go into low tide. But let me try West Palm Beach. So if you happen to live in West Palm Beach, you can do West Palm Beach, Florida, and you go to tides for fishing. I just want to show you guys how to do this here. So here it is, Palm Beach. Here we go. So Palm Beach, you go on tides for fishing here. And no, it's not just for fishing. It can be, but they also use it for tidal graphs. Don't necessarily focus on the numbers. Okay, I just want you to focus on the when the high tide is and when the low tide is. So we got our high tide right now actually for Palm Beach, and our next one's going to be at around midnight, 12:20, and then. But here's the problem though: the storm's sitting in the Bahamas, so you're gonna have the winds pumping in from the east, high tide after high tide after high tide, almost like Florence. So the water doesn't have a chance to go anywhere. And I was looking at the Weather Channel last night with Mike Seidel was in Melbourne, which I was trying to pull that one up earlier. I guess I didn't find it. But in Melbourne, they were at low tide, and there was barely any beach. It was just pretty much a sliver of beach and dunes. That's all it was. So this goes to show how powerful the storm is. And here it is actually. It is now a Category 4, a very high-end Category 4, 155 mile-an-hour winds. I guess maybe a little bit of wind shear is trying to battle, and the fact that it's sitting right over Grand Bahama Island is kind of weakening it. But it is moving a little bit. It's at what rate it is moving a little bit to the north. And just in the last loop there, you almost kind of saw it wobble to the west. Watch on the last loop right here. It almost makes a little nudge to the west. And that's going to allow for some of these rain bands and areas of clouds to streak into Florida. Even as far in as Orlando, we can see some clouds there. But again, we're seeing some storms even on the coast of Florida right now, especially around Miami, Fort Lauderdale, West Palm Beach. So again, here's the storm. Wind shear, it's going to run into a lot of it, especially in the next few days. We're talking about like almost 50 miles an hour wind shear. But heat content right now is pretty good. Storm speed will continue to increase as time goes on. But, that's it from this point of view here. And as you can see, The ocean temperatures are 30 degrees Celsius right now, but they will continue to drop to 27, even below 27 degrees Celsius, so probably below 80 degrees Fahrenheit by the time we get to the next 5 days. But ocean temperature anomalies, where it's sitting right now, they're warmer than average, but I really don't know why it's weakening. I guess because of the Bahamas happen to be sitting right over Grand Bahama Island, and I guess that's kind of weakening it a little bit. But overall, during its last few days of its journey through the Western Atlantic Ocean, parallel to the Mid-Atlantic and Southeast, it's gonna have some warmer than average ocean temperatures to put up with. So it's aiding in keeping it at least decently strong. Here's your 80-degree water temperatures or higher, closer to 90 actually. Here's some of the track guidance. Again, I mean, this one model, like, I don't even know what they're doing. Just go right into Florida and whoop. So don't really want to listen to that one, but all in the realm of possibilities. But still, you can see where the general model guidance is really taking us here. Right there. So that's your kind of like your cone. I made my own cone of uncertainty there. That's pretty much what you're talking about. I mean, one model takes it closer to, like, the Delaware and Jersey shoreline and the Chesapeake. But most models take it out through the, off the coast of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. Either way, though, the whole eastern seaboard from Maine down to Florida is going to be dealing with some very rough surf, high waves, dangerous beach conditions, even some beach erosion here, kind of like Hurricane Jose did 2 years ago, 2017. But the GEFS models, or ensembles, I will say they're very, very consistent. They're all in agreement here, very held together. And if I draw my little cone of uncertainty, it would kind of look something like this. That's all the models bashed up into one here. And as you can see, over the next few days, it's going to be taking off the coast of North Carolina, but all the models are so compact. So you can see the certainty there, at least over the next 5 days, and after that, they're kind of unsure, but could affect Halifax up there in Nova Scotia up in Canada. GEPS is a little bit more sloppy, a little bit, more disagreement there. But overall, I think the models are really holding it together very well, especially since it's at least a week out of what it can do to the Mid-Atlantic. So it's not a Cat 5. That was from 8 o'clock, so it's now down to Cat 4 right there. But you can see it's going to continue its descent, still holding its hurricane status 5 days out. But by the time we have about 6 days out, it's probably going to drop below hurricane status. So with that being said, I want to show you this. The probability of tropical storm force winds at any given point. And here they are. Anywhere along the Space Coast and Treasure Coast here. We're talking about from Daytona Beach, Port Orange, Titusville, Melbourne, Palm Bay, Port St. Lucie, and West Palm Beach. You guys have a 90% chance plus of seeing tropical storm force winds of 40 miles an hour or greater. And you can see from the latest check in the National Hurricane Center, it's going to continue a little jog to the west before skirting the coast, kind of like Matthew did 3 years ago. But even Orlando, okay, as soon as I can find Orlando, where's Orlando at? Can't find, oh, there they are. Even Orlando has a 70 to 80% chance to see winds of 40 miles an hour or greater. So, I mean, you're really going to get impacted by the storm even farther inland. What about the chances of seeing winds of 58 miles an hour or greater? Again, if you're in a place like, let me zoom in a little bit farther. If you're in, so not quite Daytona Beach, but Daytona Beach, Port Orange, Titusville, Melbourne, Palm Bay, even down to Port St. Lucie, Jupiter, West Palm Beach, you guys have about a 70, 80, so about 60 to 70% chance to see winds of 58 miles an hour or greater. Now, what about the chance of hurricane force winds? And by the way, Orlando is in a about 30 to 40% chance to see 58 mile an hour winds or greater. And the chances of hurricane force winds, again, about a 1 in 3 chance, or maybe a little bit greater, but about a 1 in 3 chance there along the Space Coast and Treasure Coast of Florida down to Boca Raton. But Orlando could even see a 10% chance of having hurricane conditions. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. But what about the most likely arrival of the winds? And that's all going to depend on your location, of course. And let me get all this here because it's kind of getting in the way. Alrighty, so let's get rid of the track for a sec. Alright, so here's when your tropical storm force winds are going to arrive. Bahamas, obviously, it's right now through about Tuesday, 2 a.m. Let's zoom in a little bit more. For a place like Orlando, your winds could be here by about Tuesday p.m. in the afternoon. Even Melbourne, Palm Bay, probably Tuesday morning, you're going to start seeing those tropical storm force winds. arrive in your area. And even all the way up the coast, Wilmington, North Carolina, maybe Thursday morning, if you do see those winds. Even up in the Mid-Atlantic, Washington, D.C., it could be overnight Friday for you. Delaware, Philadelphia, Atlantic City, if you do see tropical storm force winds, they would be here Friday morning. And again, that is for winds of 39 miles per hour or greater. But places like Philadelphia and Washington, you're probably not going to see tropical storm force winds of 40 miles an hour or greater, probably like 30 miles an hour or greater. Maybe occasional wind gusts of 35 miles an hour, and maybe occasional outer rain band from it, but not going to be directly impacted like Florida could be. And the whole Treasure Coast and Space Coast is under a, or actually the Treasure Coast is under a storm surge warning. 4 to 7 feet of storm surge. That's like 48 inches plus. I mean, no, what am I saying? 4 to 7 feet. I know, I was right. Yeah, 48 inches plus of water rise, and that's really going to be very excessive here. Again, storm surge, wherever you see these little yellow areas, that is greater than 3 feet, but that, of course, can change depending on the storm track. And again, here's your storm surge warnings. Let's zoom in on the areas that are included. And there are hurricane warnings. Wherever you see storm surge warnings, there is a hurricane warning for you as well. So West Palm Beach there, Port St. Lucie, Melbourne, Palm Bay, Titusville, Daytona Beach, and Port Orange, you are in a storm surge warning, meaning storm surge, any kind of water level rise is expected within 36 hours. For Boca Raton and Palm Coast, Jacksonville Beach, Brunswick, and Savannah, Georgia, you are under a storm surge watch, which means storm surge, water level rise is possible, not expected, but possible within the next 48 hours. Same thing as like a hurricane warning and a hurricane watch. So, anywhere outside this cone, you can still get affected here. And you might be thinking, well, how can there be a post-tropical cyclone that's a hurricane? You can see this is a hurricane, but then you see the white H, and that means like it's post-tropical, not quite tropical, but still having hurricane conditions with it. And you can see there's even tropical storm watches all the way inland, including Orlando. And even tropical storm warnings just south of that. Alright, let me just move this here. Alright. So, again, flash flooding is going to be one of the key aspects of this storm. And you see Space Coast, Treasure Coast, all the way through Savannah, Charleston, Wilmington, North Carolina. You have a slight to moderate chance of seeing excessive rainfall and flash flooding here. Rainfall potential is here. How much rainfall could we see? And from Jacksonville Beach all the way down through Melbourne, Palm Bay, and Port St. Lucie, you guys can see 6 to 10 inches of rain even with the storm offshore. Please be very careful, especially when you're preparing. Sadly, someone died in Puerto Rico from the storm trying to prepare for the storm. So, at any given point could be higher than this with the rainfall totals. And the NAM model was calling for nearly 100 inches of rain for the Bahamas. Oh, dear me. But no, probably about a couple feet. But still, I mean, I'm not saying it's any less dangerous. But the area in the lower 48 that could get the most rainfall will probably be Wilmington, North Carolina. You could see about 10 to 15 inches of rain for that area. And again, I went over the key messages there. And let's look at the radar here. I'm actually going to get a little refresh on the radar. Even though Dorian, I mean, it's cut off because this is Miami's radar, so it only goes out to about here. So everything beyond that is cut off. But you can see Dorian still very organized. And you still have these rain bands getting all the way down in Naples. That is crazy. The rain bands are getting, when you combine the rain bands from Dorian with the typical afternoon, daytime heating thunderstorms, and it's going to create some above normal flooding conditions and some gusty winds. Even some storms over Lake Okeechobee. So if you're fishing in Lake Okeechobee, if you're allowed to, I have no idea. But it's one of the biggest lakes. And if you're fishing there, you might want to head indoors. But again, look at this. West Palm Beach here. Still getting battered by some rain bands. And let me actually go a little bit further north to like Melbourne's radar here. Let's go to Loop. And there you go. Again, even Orlando's getting some storms from Dorian right now. So these outer rain bands are working their way into Florida, combined with the onshore flow and the waves. It's going to be like just like all heck broke loose or breaking loose. And the wave heights are going to continue to be very high in a place like the Florida coast. So, with that being said, let's look at some wave heights from the ECMWF WAM model. Look at this, 20-foot waves right now across the Bahamas here. And I wouldn't even be surprised they're higher than that. In fact, the Wave Watch Stream model says, yes, it is higher than that. 25-foot waves. And this is what really shocks me. Even a place like Palm Bay, let's actually go to 1 o'clock. Palm Bay and Melbourne and Cocoa Beach, 13-foot waves already, and the storm's not even here yet. And Sebastian, Vero Beach, probably getting some closer to 20-foot waves, but luckily offshore you're getting about 30-foot waves, but that's well offshore. But still, even Lake Okeechobee is getting 15-foot waves right now. So very, just these beaches could be no more in some spots. But you can see even all these indoor lakes here, those inland lakes and rivers could still see some 8-foot waves. As we head through time, the waves will only get larger and larger and larger. 34-foot waves offshore. Palm Bay gets some 20-foot waves, and thank God. I mean, I saw some video from Melbourne, and thank goodness they got some sand dunes there to help block a lot of that seawall. Because if it wasn't for those, who knows? It could have been storm surge flooding a long, long time ago. And again, looking at the radar here, let's put the radar loop into motion. And let's see, let's do rabbit. Yeah, rabbit. All right. And you can see these little sea breeze storms combined with Dorian's, flow, outflow, and moisture. Again, a lot more convective activity here. And you can see there's the main Mamba Jamba right there over the Bahamas. So some we're really going to have to watch, and some we're going to have to really keep an eye on. But again, probably one of my next videos I'm going to be talking about, there's 4 other tropical disturbances in the Atlantic. And I was saying, the tropics could just spike up all of a sudden in September, October, and that's what it's doing so far. So thank you for watching this video. I'll catch you guys next video. I am the Weather Dude, signing off. Till next time.